Today, we're talking Trek opening credit sequences on...
Yeah, it's the best five, worst five, know what I mean? Yeah, it's the best five, worst five Treks ever seen.
We're going to judge 30 out of 32 opening credits across every show and movie called Trek, including the alternate versions. We've boiled it down to the best and worst 5. The missing 2 entries are Star Trek Beyond that literally does not have an opening sequence, and 3 of us sat down and ranked these before Picard's second season premiere, which I don't think would make the best or worst 5. We gave certain numbers of points based on the categories of musical score, visuals, and font, and then averaged our 3 numbers to arrive at the conclusions I'm about to share. What we found does not bode well for the TNG movies. Number 5. Star Trek First Contact. Yes, even the best TNG movie can have a not-so-great opening sequence. We're treated to the first of many TMP-TNG reorchestrated themes into a further muted score. The blurred credits flying in over a purple background is pretty boring and underwhelming for such a solid entry to Trek's movies. Number 4. The Animated Series. If you didn't know this series was from the 70s, you will instantly figure it out when the score kicks in. It starts as an updated version of the original TOS theme and quickly devolves into feeling like I'm about to come on down on The Price is Right. At least you can actually hear Kirk saying the "Space, the Final Frontier" lines, which still was never fixed in TOS's update. Considering its low budget, the fact that it beats out 3 Hollywood movies in its intro is its only consolation prize. Number 3. Star Trek Insurrection. This entry feels out of place for a Trek opening to be wandering around a village of Amish-like folk. Well, the visuals actually give us something to look at and set the slow-as-a-crawl pacing of this movie. It's a better start to a Game of Thrones season before a dragon drops down and burns the whole village. The font is pretty bland, and as usual, we get a reorchestrated TMP theme that segues into something new. I don't remember the TNG movie intros being this bad growing up, but compared to the franchise as a whole, they are truly the opposite of good. Number 2. Star Trek Nemesis. Intros that are either too long, or in this case too short, plague the existence of the next-gen movies. There's a quick and slightly reorchestrated motion picture theme, and literally there's nothing else to say about this, except it has a Greek hard-to-read font. It did the absolute minimum to be called an intro sequence. Number 1. Star Trek Generations. This is way too long of an intro to just follow a bottle. The motion picture literally scored 0 points in the visuals category, and it's not in the worst 5. The music is very muted and doesn't even feel like a real score until just as the bottle breaks at the christening of the Enterprise B. Make sure you get this CGI bottle from every angle, guys. The fact that it had a mediocre to okay font is really the only saving grace for this one. A dishonorable mention. I bet many of you are wondering, how is it possible that Enterprise's intro didn't quite make the bottom 5? Visuals. Well, I think most of us can agree that Faith of the Heart is easily the worst choice of pairing with an intro sequence. The visuals really do this incredible story of human achievements in traveling to new horizons. If you mute the worst yet somehow maddeningly catchy song, it's actually a really solid intro. I like the font, but with all kinds of other words and formulas on the screen, it has a tendency to get lost. I really thought going into this review that this would be the worst of the worst, but it turns out it has some redeeming qualities after all. Starting our look at the top intro sequences. Number 5. DS9's later seasons. In the spirit of Trek showing random stellar phenomenons, we start off with a comet for no good reason, and then we watch that sexy station spin. This one is probably longer than it should be at just shy of 2 minutes, but the orchestration is very moving. Starts light and builds. I'm a big fan of DS9's font, but it would be more easily readable on modern televisions if CBS would call for the HD update this show deserves. Number 4. Mirror Universe Enterprise. It seems weird talking about Enterprise as one of the best intros in Trek. But from the color shift in the title and the dark orchestration we start off with, it's just ominous and perfectly encapsulates this standalone Mirror Universe entry to the franchise. The first few visuals are the same, but then seems to show us the Prime and Mirror universes diverging. World War II footage and a surprising amount of CGI seemingly created for just this 2-part intro in a season where the budget was stretched thin. That score is near perfection to me. Number 3. Picard Season 1. Like the feather in Forrest Gump, we follow this shard of glass taken out of the fabric of reality all the way through the credit sequence. It takes us through some of the major themes of the season, the biggest of which is the glass itself representing how broken all our main characters are at the hands of Commodore O, and none of them knows it at the beginning. This may be the most visually stunning intro across Trek to this point. The orchestration feels emotional and semi-hopeful. Even if the season ended in a blunder, the intro is plenty worthy of the top 5. Number 2. TNG's later seasons. This is easily the best version of the classic Jerry Goldsmith motion picture theme. It's just iconic and feels whimsical. While the planets and stellar gases we fly through are pretty generic visuals, they work well to set the tone of exploration and curiosity. Picard's words, "to boldly go," have been seared in my brain for 3 decades now. That nice big bold font is easy to read, and what I think of when I think Trek credit fonts in my mind. We've got 2 honorable mentions, both of them animated. We're really big fans of the intros of Lower Decks and Prodigy here at Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. Lower Decks sets the zany pace of its run, and Prodigy's visuals are brilliantly done. And the best opening credit sequence in Trek? Voyager. For 90s CGI, this intro still looks decent on an HD screen, despite the show itself badly needing an HD update. The music is so hopeful, and that little sound effect that plays when the camera comes through the rings of the impossible planet in the background is just immersion gold. It conjures so many emotions, and to me, this is Jerry Goldsmith's crowning achievement across Star Trek. It's so good, it's literally the only series to this point that hasn't changed anything across its run, other than swapping out the names of Cast to 7 of 9. I've linked in the description a PDF of the full list of 31 intros if you'd like to see more of how they shake out. What's your favorite Trek opening sequence?